Here's how to increase motivation in an ESL or EFL classroom. The first idea is to meet students' needs. So if students, for example, have to pass a TOEIC or a TOEFL or an IELTS exam at some point in the next year, but your class is just very heavily focused on like maybe movie English or something like that, it's really not related to the students' needs and motivation will be low. So I generally ask students, why are you in this class and why are you studying English? Based on what they say, I try to tailor my lessons to their specific needs. The second way to increase motivation is to practice positive reinforcement as opposed to negative reinforcement. So I really like to focus on the positive examples of using English in kind of an effective way and the positive kind of good things in terms of behavior as opposed to like the bad examples. So focus on the positive in your class and you'll have more positive in the future. The third way to increase motivation is to give praise. So everyone likes to be praised. Everyone likes to be told that they're doing a good job. So praise your students often, even for small things. For some students, even doing a very small thing in English can actually be quite a big accomplishment. The fourth thing is to give some external rewards. So kind of a reward system, something like that. So I don't always like to have reward systems or attach things like participation points because it's kind of fuzzy because why are students studying English? Is it to get some like little sticker or to get some little grade or like a little pizza party or something like that? However, it can actually be quite an effective way to conduct classes, especially with children. So for example, I would like to maybe have like classes compete against each other or like little groups in the class, and maybe the winner would get a pizza party at the end of the semester, or even like little monthly rewards in class, maybe like a little chocolate bar or something like that. So a few little external rewards can be a fun way to kind of create an element of competition, and they can actually just help you increase the kind of behavior and language use that you want in the class. The next one is to be a role model. So hopefully, if you're an English teacher, you've also had the experience of learning another language in a classroom setting. So you know how difficult it can be. And if your students know that you're actively studying another language while they're actively studying English, it can kind of be encouraging for them and help increase their motivation. And they can kind of feel like, oh, my teacher is in the same boat as me. The next thing is to give students feedback. So I often ask my students what they kind of expect from the teacher at the beginning of the class or the beginning of the semester, and they'll often say, I want feedback from the teacher. This is an expectation that students have, particularly of native English-speaking teachers. So give feedback. However, don't give feedback about every single thing. It can be quite demoralizing. Instead, I focus my feedback on things that I'm talking about in that class. For example, if I'm teaching the simple past, I'll give feedback about all mistakes related to the simple past and also things that we've covered through like the previous classes in the semester. So give feedback and give it often, but of course, give it in a very kind way. The next way to increase motivation is to prepare interesting lessons. So by interesting, I mean relevant topics that are relevant to the students where you're teaching and then also to their age level. So I mean, like high school students probably are not that interested in a lesson on like buying a house or something like that. And adults are probably not that interested in a lesson on like, say, maybe video games that like a 13-year-old boy would play. So you know what I mean? Just choose interesting topics, kind of meet students where they're at. All right, the next way to increase motivation in an English class is to use partners or small groups more often than a large class. So I really love to divide my class into smaller units, and that because this increases students' talking time. If students are talking a lot, they'll feel like the class was valuable and they're actually getting something out of it. If I'm just standing at the front giving a lecture to 20 or 30 students, I think I would probably wonder, like, why am I in this class? This seems kind of like a waste of my time. Or am I actually getting anything out of it? As opposed to I'm with a partner and I'm talking, I don't know, like say 40 to 45% of the class time, I would feel like, oh wow, that was actually really worth it. I got a lot of practice time for my English in that class. To increase motivation, you can also add an element of competition to the class. So I will generally kind of do a warm-up activity and then I'll introduce some grammar or vocabulary. I would do a bit of controlled practice, a bit of freer practice, and then I love to finish off kind of with a competitive game of some kind. Not like a serious, like, you take someone down and like beat them down kind of game, but just kind of like a friendly thing and maybe like a little board game or something like that that involves the language. So introduce some kind of competition, and I always would bring like a little bag of prizes to my class. So I'd have things like pens, erasers, pencils, maybe like post-it notes, and a whole bunch of like little candies and like little chocolate bars, whatever. So whoever wins, like if I put students into groups of say 4 to play a little board game, the winner of each of those little groups of 4 would get to choose one prize. So a little bit of competition in kind of a fun and yeah, quite a simple way, but students are serious about it. So for example, when I play board games in their groups of 4, I would tell students, okay, so you have to listen to the answer. Like, for example, if it was about problem and advice, I would say, I can't sleep at night, what should I do? And the students would have to give advice if they land on that square. You shouldn't have coffee in the afternoon or something like that. I would tell the other students in that group to listen carefully at the answers. And if the answer didn't make sense or they didn't think it would match the question, to put up their hand and I would judge whether or not they would get that point. Students were listening so attentively, they were ready to shut that answer down. So just the element of competition adds something to the class, and students can really be motivated to listen and to actively participate if they know they can get a little prize at the end. All right, the last thing you can do to increase motivation is to mix up groups in your class. People tend to sit in the same spot in a class, but what if you're the student who's actually quite a good student, but you end up with maybe the worst student in the class who really doesn't speak English? I mean, you're probably not going to learn that much. You might feel pretty demoralized. What if you're a weaker student, but you end up with the best student in the class? That person is probably frustrated at you, kind of annoyed because they can't really talk to you. So I like to do kind of different groups in my classes. So almost every class, students will have to talk to a different person. And if I'm doing, say, groups of 4, I'll just kind of do random. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I kind of just do it randomly in the class so students don't necessarily end up with their best friends. If they're with their best friends, they might just be chatting in their first language. But if you mix up groups, then students are more motivated to kind of speak English and kind of to impress the people that they're with. Okay, so those are all my tips for increasing motivation in the ESL classroom. If you like these ideas, please be sure to check out my book, ESL, EFL Teaching Practice and Methodology. And please hit like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.